Inside America's Boardrooms, the informational show for board members and corporate secretaries. Brought to you with Knowledge Partners, NASDAQ, the Center for Audit Quality, and PwC. Along with content contributors Equilar, Meridian Compensation Partners, Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, R.R. Donnelly, and the Society of Corporate Secretaries and Governance Professionals.
Welcome to this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. I'm TK Kerstetter, the CEO of Boardroom Resources and the host for your show today. Today we're going to talk about how to approach the board composition challenge, among other things. And we have a great guest with us today. I'd like to introduce Margaret Pederson, who's a board member with VAD Corporation. And Margaret, welcome to the show.
Thank you, it's great to be here.
So we always like to have sitting directors in because that gives us sort of right from the trenches. The first thing, not an easy question, but the first question we got to ask is, what do you find as the biggest challenge facing corporate board members today? No small question.
No small question, a bit global. I think it's really keeping abreast and ideally keeping ahead of all the developments for which a director has responsibility. You've got the traditional core ones of oversight of strategy and hiring the CEO. Then, of course, the financial, the metrics and performance. Regulatory, very important for the public companies. Increasingly an emphasis on risk, and that falls in a wide variety of areas. It could be enterprise, investment, credit, and the ever-increasing cybersecurity. The point being, it's not if you've been breached, it's how often and how soon did you know it. New areas, in addition to cyber security, that are important today, one near and dear to my heart, the impact of technology on the business, the impact of disruptive innovation, digital and social, which I know you've talked about in other programs, and how you handle all that. And another emerging area is the social responsibility, whether it's the sustainability and some of the environmental. I think the best way to get a handle on all of these is using a variety of tools. The starting point, of course, is all the material that the members get in preparation for the meeting, which thank heavens we all mostly have on portals now, but can be quite extensive. But that is just a starting point. There's a lot of information you can get, obviously follow all your analyst reports, but also be following your customers, your competitors, technology trends, whether they're directly in your industry, peripheral to your industry, adjacent, or just out there, and how can they impact you so that you are more the opportunistic disruptor and not the company being threatened by disruption. And there's a lot of resources online that are public that are available, whether it's following, again, the tweets and the presence of all those groups mentioned, or doing things like Glassdoor.
Well, we both know that it's overwhelming when you add compliance and all the duties that board members have. Corporate secretaries are getting better, boards are getting better, so hopefully that's going to help directors sort of weather the load. At the same time, we hear investors wanting more and more, relative to information, which is a great segue into my next question for you, because we recently had some institutional investors, when they were asked to review board performance in general, put great emphasis on board composition and building effective boards. So you not only serve on VAD's board, but you also serve on some private boards as well.
Correct.
So let me tap all that experience and ask you what tips you might offer boards in the way of getting good talent and building a effective board.
I think board refreshment is a very timely topic, one that is certainly getting a lot of attention in today's world. My approach is very analytical, as is my background. and that is to look at the company's strategy, where you are today and where you need to be in 3 to 5 years. Then, as a second step, look at the resources that will be required to get there, including the background of your board members. Look at their core experience and expertise, where they are and how that aligns with not only where you are today, but where you need to be in that 3 to 5 year time. And then determine if there's a gap and see, and that gap will be the profile of your next board director. In areas where I hear a lot of discussion of people, companies, both public and private, looking for expertise is in technology. Not necessarily being a technologist, but understanding how it is going to impact the business. Again, we mentioned social and digital. Cyber, although there's a feeling that you can buy a lot of great expertise via third party on that. So that would be how I would look at it.
Yeah, well, I for sure think that boards should be looking at who is my next in line for the audit committee chair, who is my next in line for the comp chair, who might be the next in line for a lead director if your company has one. That kind of thinking forces you to really be thinking ahead, okay, on who do we have in-house, as you said, that creates those kind of gaps.
Absolutely. We do succession planning for management. We need to be doing that same discipline for the board. I think you raised excellent points. What is your succession plan for all of those key positions and those committee members? How are you rotating the committee members so that you're keeping that current and refreshed and keeping the board members engaged?
Yeah.
Do you have other committees that you want to be, other people that you need to be, other industry expertise? There's a lot of discussion today on diversity. Remembering that diversity is just as much about diversity of experience and expertise. That could be in industry expertise, geographic. There's a lot on global today's world, that if you're a global company, how are you bringing in that expertise?
So Margaret, that is a great segue into, when you talk about committees, into one of the things I wanted to ask you, because you are the chair of VIAD's Innovation and Marketing Strategy Board Committee. Now, interestingly enough, we have come across a couple other boards that have a strategy committee, okay? So this makes it even more interesting. So tell us, in your situation, what is the committee's charge, particularly with the innovation part of that? So describe that.
Everyone wants to be innovative today,
yeah,
correct?
so describe that for us.
This is innovation in the boardroom and from the boardroom is really my passion. And I would trace it back as a committee to the time of the pharma companies when they had their R&D committee, because they were dealing with something that was, in essence, very innovative. Today, the innovation committees are, I would consider, leading edge, but there are a number of companies who do have an innovation committee, often described as innovation in technology. And when we set it up, I was the charter chair back in 2013. I studied every public company that I could find, of course you can, their charter and what their responsibilities were. And almost to a word, it was all to advise on technology and innovation, usually in the reverse order, to the board and sometimes to management. Now, some companies, like a D&B, would add on other, would expand the scope of their charter to include the process, and in their specific case, they also wanted to look at their information technology platform. Underneath it, you would have a list of specific responsibilities which fall into what I put into various buckets. It would be things like process, could be areas of acquisition. Some will be responsible, as we were also looking out at how technology, emerging technology could impact your business. All of them would be responsible for advising the board. Some of them would be responsible for advising management. Some would be monitoring the progress and measuring the performance, because obviously you need to be able to track it. And also 2 other areas that some companies have, not all, acquisitions and intellectual IP.
So you've been able to find other members that have the same passion that you do on the committee?
It's a close community. I wouldn't say it's overly large, but I think we're all dedicated to it. Yeah.
Well, that's fascinating, and I think we're seeing that. I think we're seeing companies form committees that are not traditional. They have the traditional ones, but they're saying, how else can the board help us advance our brands, advance our reputation, improve shareholder value, and grow. And I think innovation, particularly when I think of a company like GM, 3M, I was going to say. 3M, right. Here's somebody that's developing new products all the time. You know, how does something stick, you know, whatever. And I'm sure they have a team of people that are doing that, but it would be interesting, again, for companies like that on what their interaction with the board is.
Well, some of the companies that have innovation committees are not necessarily the ones that you would think you would have someone, you know,
right.
that you wouldn't, but D&B, Procter and Gamble, Delphi Automotive. Some of the technology companies that you think might don't necessarily, because I think they consider it part of their DNA. So it would just be everyone would be innovative. So, but it's a wide variety of different industries and geographies.
Well, Margaret, I can't tell you how pleased we were to have you stop by and join us as a guest. So thank you for taking the time to do that.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to help, and anyone who wants to talk about innovation, I'm only an email away.
Yeah. Well, that will conclude this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back again next week when we take a look at another critical topic that'll help you be a better board member or committee member. So we'll see you then.
Join us again next week for Inside America's Boardrooms. Brought to you with Knowledge Partners, NASDAQ, the Center for Audit Quality, and PwC. Along with content contributors Equilar, Meridian Compensation Partners, Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, R.R. Donnelly, and the Society of Corporate Secretaries and Governance Professionals.